I miss talking to people on the phone because nobody ever wants to talk to me on the phone anymore.
Oh yeah, so sorry, I just really got distracted.
I've read it like 3 or 4 times, so if you need me to hop in.
That sounds quite interesting.
Hi, we're the Reading Queens, and we're here to blab about our favorite books, why we love them, and the book boyfriends we wish were real. And we're back for another episode. Welcome or welcome back. We're thrilled you're here. I'm Valia.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Joanna.
I'm Alison.
And yeah, we're here to talk about books, so I'm excited. How is everyone feeling today?
Great.
I love every time I ask the question and there's just like a pause.
I think I'm good.
So I was really bad, and I got really far behind in like listening to the previous episodes that I wasn't on. So over the weekend I like binged a bunch, and I was listening to Clary's introduction episode, and she was talking about how she got her first name from a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Clarissa.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did too, actually.
Oh.
My mom used to read these, I don't know if they're a Harlequin romance, but they're all like a name of a girl. And one of them was Joanna, and that's where my name came from.
Nice.
So,
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I don't have a fun story like that. I was supposed to be named something else.
That sounds quite
Are you supposed to
interesting.
be a boy?
So my biological individual, I don't call him dad,
Right.
but he decided that while my mom was recovering from giving birth to me, he was gonna go and write down the name that he wanted instead of the one she wanted on my birth certificate information. So he named me after his mom. But yeah, I was going to be Natalie because that was my mom's. She loved that, Natasha and all that. So, but I'm Valia, yay! Or Valentina is the full name, but there we go. That's my story.
But Valia is a really cool name.
yeah.
It's really unique.
It is here, I guess. It's not so unique in Russia. I mean, it's pretty normal name. Like, I don't know. Just, yeah, I don't know. I like it fine.
Wow, your mum must have been mad though.
Yeah, she definitely wasn't happy, but it's grown on me and her. I think she loves me, so it helps.
Loves you anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Despite of my name.
I grew up, my mom always said that, because my name is Hannah, but there's no H on the end. So my mom always said that they did it on purpose. And my dad always said it's because they didn't know how to spell Hannah. And then, like as an adult, like a few years ago, I realized that they were both telling the truth. My dad wanted me to be named Hannah after the Hannah in the Bible, who has an H on the end. And my mother, even though she is like a wonderful Christian lady, was like, but there's terrible names in the Bible. Does it have to be a Bible name? Like there's nice names that aren't Bible names. And they knew somebody named Hannah who was spelled my way. So she just wrote that down. And my dad didn't know, because he's dyslexic, that's not how he spelled Hannah. So there we go.
That's funny.
I literally have no interesting story around my name. I feel left out now. Like I want some kind of, I don't know, hidden secret identity or something. I think they just like the name Alison.
I have to tell you, Allison, when I was telling my 4-year-olds that I was talking to my friend Allison, she thought I said Alice in Wonderland, so she thinks that
Very excited.
There you
were
go.
Alice in
Awesome.
Wonderland.
And I go down rabbit holes and have cool tea parties.
Yes.
I have to say though that like a lot of people spell my name wrong, and I don't really understand why. I think, is it spelt differently in America typically?
Is it usually 2 L's?
No, so in the
Because
UK,
No.
in
No?
the
I don't
UK,
think so.
it's
Okay.
1 L. But I have people who spell it with 2 L's. I have people who spell it with a Y. Yeah. And I don't understand
No,
it.
I think your way is
I
pretty
feel
common.
like people like to spell things every way, and sometimes you have to like sound it out to figure out what name they were trying to go for.
But it's
So, like,
kind,
we're gonna
it's
be
kind of
creative
annoying,
with how we
right?
spell.
When you send an email to someone and your name is on the bottom of the email, and then they reply to the email and they spell your name wrong.
Yeah.
This happens to
that
me
has
all the
happened.
time. Yes. Or on like Facebook Messenger, I'm like, my name's right there though. You're looking for
It's at the top. Yeah. That's funny. At least they can probably sound your guys' name out. My name is never pronounced right. For the longest time I had people who called me Viola, and I'm like, no.
There's no O.
I know, I don't understand. A big one is like Valia, like that's a big one because it's like Val, like you would go with that, which I really hate. So I went through a whole phase where I was telling people, I'm like, okay, so think the word volume or volleyball, so Valia. I had to come up with a whole way, and then some people just still call me volleyball, so there's
Can we just
that.
call you volleyball? It's easier.
No, you may not. Hannah just keeps disappearing.
Wait, before we talk about books, we have to talk about Love and Monsters because I am not happy.
Oh, that's true, because tell us why.
Well, so if you listened to last week's episode, there was a conversation about Love and Monsters, which I haven't seen and which you guys all love. And so my homework for last week was to watch it. And I went and tried to watch it and I can't because it's not available in the UK, which is so frustrating because I'd watched the trailer and I was like really, really psyched to watch it. And, we were like, right, we'll put the baby to bed or we'll take it in turns and we'll like have a proper evening where we kind of sit and watch a film the whole way through.
Aww.
And and then we couldn't find it. So I'm really sad.
I hope you watch something else.
I know, right?
We started watching Mortal Engines, which we've now watched over 3 nights because we don't actually get through an entire film before baby starts waking up or screaming or wanting something. So yeah.
It takes us 2 nights to watch a movie just because we're tired.
To be fair, it usually...
And we have older kids who go to bed
Same.
later, and we're like, well, we could get in 45 minutes.
So my husband gets really frustrated with me because it always takes me forever to watch anything because I'm like, okay, well, I can watch like half an hour and then I need to go to bed or I need to do something else because I have too many things to do or I need to go read books. And he gets really frustrated. This is why we can't watch series together because like I'll take, watch 1 episode a week or something and he'll binge watch an entire series in a night. So we have to agree to watch. We watch series together and then he has his own series which he watches.
His own, yeah. That's funny. I've learned that I now can't just watch anything without doing something, right? So for like 2021, like my goal was to work on my art. And so now I'm like, okay, if we're sitting down to watch a movie or anything like that, I can practice and draw, and that way I feel like I'm still accomplishing something instead of just sitting there, which none of my friends understand. They're just like, that's the whole point, is to relax. And I'm like, but I want to do stuff.
Yeah, no, I do that a lot. Yeah, I always have something.
I draw while I watch shows all the time, and like on the weekends I watch Disney movies with my children so I can get some art time in but like still snuggle. But I found there's a lot of things I can't watch. Like we like to watch anime, and I'm like, you can't watch anime and draw at the same time because it's subtitled. Like I don't know what's happening.
You kind of need that, yeah.
Or anything like really action packed. They're like having a fight, and I'm just like, well, I guess you tell me when it's over. The good guys are gonna win, right? I'll just keep drawing. I always want like banter because then you can enjoy. Watch like
you can listen.
Gilmore Girls or something, and just like it's practically an audio series.
That's true. That's so sad though. I'm so saddened for you because you need Love and Monsters in your life.
I do.
That is sad.
And
I haven't watched it, but I'm sad that you can watch the movie you want to watch. Because I also
Hanna, you need to watch it.
I'm sorry. I do think we have it in Canada. I know the pain though when people are talking about something nonstop and you look it up in your country and you're like, never mind, Americans. We don't believe in that in Canada.
All right, moving on.
Moving on. I'm not bitter.
How are we talking about books now?
Yes, we can talk about books now.
Yay! Start again. Last week we each picked a book with a specific trope, and I love this trope, so I was so excited for this trope. Hanna, do you want to reveal what our trope is and tell us what you read?
Yes. I love it because once again it's another romance trope, and I'm like, all the romance tropes. So we're gonna do forbidden love, forbidden romance, which we were talking about earlier is a little tricky sometimes because a lot of them they're more like hate to love or enemies to lovers, like they're on opposite sides, but is it actually forbidden or not? So the book / series I went with was Vampire Academy. I have to start by saying that I resisted reading this series for a very long time because I looked at it and the covers are awful. And then it got new covers and the new covers are also awful. I don't understand why they even bothered recovering it. I'm like, I didn't remember which ones are the new ones. They're just like 2 sets of bad covers. And
I didn't even know.
Oh, yeah. Then I was done with vampires. I don't know. Twilight had faded. I had tried to watch Vampire Diaries. Don't hurt me, you Vampire Diaries lovers. And
Joanna.
And I couldn't get past like episode 3. And I think that somehow in my head, they were like the same thing, similar covers. I don't know. So I always ignored it. And then I read Richelle Mead has this series that I keep wanting to tell people about called The Age of X, but you can't. They canceled her book series. So she wrote 2 books and then they cut it off. And it's so good. It's one of my like favorite books ever.
Well, she's so
I
good.
know.
She's amazing.
This is so good. I guess it wasn't selling well. They were like, no, write more YA. No more of this for you. Anyway, so I read that and I was like, this book is amazing. And they're like, oh, she wrote. You're like, what else did they write? Oh, Vampire Academy. I should probably read that. And then I did, and then I loved it. So that's my thing. If you're looking down your nose at Vampire Academy, I think you should know that it's really good. And you should read it.
It's really good.
So the way it goes, it's like, modern teenager times. And it starts with these 2 girls who are on the run and they get taken back to Vampire Academy. They weren't supposed to run away from it. It's not called Vampire Academy. That's like what they called it for the book. It's Saint.
No, I think it's
Saint somethings, isn't it?
Oh no, it's
like Saint Vladimir's or something.
Vladimir.
They have a cooler name. So the vampires in this one, Joanna has read this book even more times than me, so she's correcting me with anything I get wrong here. There's the I don't know how would you say it? I always say Moray, but
I always said Moray.
There's no A in it, and yet I say Moray. So we'll go with Moray.
I always said
Moray, they're vampires, but they're not immortal and they don't kill people. They just like suck human blood and go about their business and have a culture. They're kind of royals.
Can they eat food?
Yeah, I think they eat food
do.
too.
Yeah,
like they can,
but it's not like a nutrition thing. Like they need the blood. Yeah,
it's like they drink blood and they eat food.
Mm-hmm. And, so I was gonna say they're nice. I mean, they're like as nice as normal people are. They're just like normal people. And then there's half vampires who are Dampiers, who are mostly their bodyguards because they're like stronger and faster, and maybe they also think they're a little disposable because they're not full
not pure
fancy Moray. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And then there's the Strigoi, who are the evil vampires who kill the Moray and suck their blood and are bad.
And they're like the traditional.
They're like red eyes and monsters.
Vampires that can't go out in the sunlight.
Yeah, and they're like immortal and crazy
and evil.
So the whole thing's about there's this princess named Lissa, and then Rose, who's the main character, is her guardian, and they've got this super special bond, and they don't know why they have a super special bond, but they do. So she's trying to take care of her, and then they run away and get pulled back, and they're like, you have to finish school. So she's like learning to be a guardian, but they give Lissa also a proper guardian named Dmitri, who is the hot Russian Dampier. And then there's like all these reasons why they can't be together. For like, how many books? 8 books? I think there's 8 books in the original series.
There's 6 in the first series.
Is there 6 in the second series too?
There's 6 in the second series also, but it's a different. It's different main characters.
Anyway, won't get into that. We could talk about this for a long time. But I love that there's always reasons. It's the most drawn out, slow burn romance, and it just doesn't disappoint you. But they can't be together because Dampiers aren't supposed to be together because they can't have babies and they're supposed to be really busy protecting people. So like Dampiers don't date Dampiers or anyone, as far as I could tell. And then they also are supposed to be really focused on guarding Lissa and nothing could happen to her. So they can't be distracted by their feelings for each other ever. But they have to do lots of combat training, which we all know Valia loves. And I do too. So like you can't fall in love, but you must touch each other because it's for combat training.
Which
It
gives
just sounds
lots
so
of
funny.
opportunities for like close contact and falling on top of each
Yes.
other and rolling around on the floor.
Exactly. And then like some point in the book, she's under a compulsion spell. Is he too? I think. And they start
Yeah.
making out, and you're like, yes, but it's a compulsion
Yeah.
spell,
There.
and it's to distract from somebody trying to get at Lissa. So then they feel even worse, and they're like, we can't ever be together because it's like distracting from our responsibilities, and she loves Lissa more than anything else. So there's like,
Well, and probably
all
the
these reasons.
biggest ones is he's like her
Oh
teen.
yeah, and the teacher thing.
Yeah.
He's not like, you always have to be like, it's not like an old
mean,
weird teacher thing.
No, he's only like 6 years
Yeah.
older than her, but he's still her
Yes,
teacher.
he's like mentoring her and teaching because she has to catch up. They missed 2 years of school because they're off running around. You just have to read the books, honestly. But there's lots of reasons, and it takes a while to unpack them. And then Richelle Mead does new mean things to them. She's extremely mean to them, which makes it a great series. I find that usually when I read a romance series or like a series with a big romantic subplot, if they keep drawing it out, you're just like, oh my goodness. Like either they should just be together or stop being stupid. But I love these books because it just keeps going. And it's so good.
Yeah, she does give them a good
amazing.
reasons. Like,
Yes.
you know, when they do get together, like it's, oh, and wait, no, you can't. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
because they
it's
do
not
get
the- it's
together
not a
in book
dumb
2.
reason.
Spoiler, sorry.
Mhm.
But then there's like, but you can't really be together.
Then there's something
Yeah.
else. Then
Right,
there's something
exactly.
else that happens.
And it's worse. It's terrible. Anyway, continues.
It has some amazing action scenes too. That
Mhm.
if I ever need a good one, I think it's in book 3 or 4. That there's a really amazing action scene.
I might need to reread them because
too.
I've been like reading through action scenes because, you know, me, I write them all the time because I love them. But I don't want to continuously just make them sound the same. So I'm like, let me see what other writers do and, you know, how they describe it. And so I've been kind of like going back through a couple of books and just looking up like the fighting scenes or whatever. So maybe I need to see if I can figure out that
there's
one.
a really good one in there. And if you remember when we were talking about our favorite all-time character, Rose Hathaway.
Yes, that is
She's a great
yours.
character.
All-time character.
I
love
need to
her.
read
I
the
love
rest
her,
of the
yeah.
series because I've only read the first book, and I have to say, like, don't kill me, but I didn't really like. It took me a while to get into it. I think I'm not always a fan of the kind of school type academy settings, and I'm particularly not a fan of like bullying stuff. And there's quite a lot of bullying in the first part
yeah.
of the series. It just
Especially in
it just
that
makes
first
me
one.
reminds me of
Yeah.
high school, and I don't really want to be reminded of high school. But I have to
That's
say
fair.
that the romance element of it was definitely one of my favorite parts of the book. So I'm not sure if I can handle it being dragged out for 6 books, but if you guys tell me
They
it's
do
worth
get
it.
together. They do get
Okay.
together. It's not like a constant like, will they or won't they?
Mhm.
You like know they're in love. There's just like
There's other
yes,
obstacles.
obstacles,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
we don't want to give too much away.
Yeah,
So,
no spoilers.
no spoilers. But yes, everyone should read the series and they should not watch the movie first and then judge the series based upon it. Even though Valia loves
See,
the movie too.
Once I love the movie. Once again, my controversial opinions coming out.
I
It
liked the movie
was
too.
okay.
I just thought it was fun. Like, that's the thing. I felt
It's
like
fun.
during that
Mhm.
time, a lot of the young adult movies that were coming out, they were like these serious movies, right? Like with like dystopian worlds and like all this stuff. And this one was just fun. Like they were just teenagers, but like in this magical world, you know, with vampires. And I don't know. It just hit the mark for me. I was just enjoying myself watching it.
Well, and I think that they cast Rose and Lissa very
They did.
well.
Yes, they did.
Did they not
Rose is
cast
my
Dimitri
favorite.
well?
I loved
Was
Rose.
Dim-
No,
I think-
Dimitri was not casted
Okay,
well.
I'm thinking that was my problem.
I
He was one
wasn't-
of my top book boyfriends, and I remember being like,
Yeah, I think we talked about this previously
so
for
too.
sure. Yeah, because we're both agree on that one. I
I
definitely
agree on that one.
yeah,
Too.
but I really love Rose. I think she
Me
was
too.
perfect for it. If they could do like, you know, recast everybody else but keep Lissa and Rose, it'd be great.
Christian was okay too.
Yeah, he was okay. I wasn't a big fan, but he definitely did a better job in that movie than he did in the Shadowhunters series. So
was he in the
there is
Shadowhunters
that.
one?
Oh.
He was Jace.
Who
Was
did
he
he play?
Jace?
He was?
He was Jace
Yeah,
in
that's
the
not great.
show. No, that show
I
was
didn't
terrible.
connect that together.
Oh, we could talk about that for a while too, but maybe we should not.
Yeah, that could be a whole conversation because, oh my goodness. But anyway, maybe Joanna should just talk about
moving
her
on to
book
Joanna.
now.
I'll talk about mine because I reread another one of my like all-time favorites, and what was kind of fun about this is the first 2 times I read this, I listened to it on Audible, but this time I finally just bought the paperbacks, and it was fun because I could like flip back and like reread my favorite scenes again.
Yes.
And you can't do that as easily on audio. So I read The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater.
I love as well.
Have you read
Yeah,
it?
I loved it.
I've only
I
read it
love
once,
those
but I did
books.
love it.
So Blue Sargent lives in a house full of clairvoyant women, like psychic women. Her mother, 2 of her mother's friends, and her aunt. The psychics in the house usually give like broad predictions to their clients, so they have clients coming in. But ever since Blue was young, every psychic has told her in their own way, because they all have like different areas of like expertise or where they're more, every single one of them has told her since she was about 6 years old that if she kisses her true love, he'll die.
Ooh.
So beginning of the book, I know. So Blue, she isn't psychic herself, but she's like a battery or like a magnifying glass where she can make things like louder or more clear for the clairvoyant women around her. And so she's often like helping them out like in their readings and stuff. And every year she stands next to her mom on St. Mark's Eve at a ruined church that's a ley line runs right through it, and they watch as the soon-to-be dead walk past. It's called the Corpse Road. So the soon-to-be dead, the people that are going to die in the next 12 years, or in the next 12 months, so the next year. And Blue sits there and writes down all the names so they can inform the people of their town of Henrietta, Virginia, that they're going to die in the next 12 months.
Fun.
It's good times.
Yeah. Blue never sees the dead until this year when she sees a boy who talks to her. His name is Gansey. She's told that the only reason a non-seer, the only reason that she would see a soon-to-be dead spirit is if it's her true love or she's going to kill him.
Fun.
Then she meets Gansey. He's a rich student at Aglenby, which is a local private school for boys. Blue has a policy of staying away from Aglenby boys, known as the Raven Boys, hence the name of the book, because they can only mean trouble. But Blue is drawn to Gansey in a way she can't entirely explain. He's on a quest that has encompassed 3 other Raven Boys: Adam, who's a scholarship student, Ronan, who is kind of like
The bad boy.
the bad boy, yeah.
He has a lot of anger issues.
Yes.
He does. He has lots of anger issues. And Noah, she always calls him like the smudgy one. He's just kind of like, they kind of forget about Noah a lot. She's never believed in true love, and so thought the warning of a kiss would never be an issue. But then she gets caught up with these Raven Boys and everything that's going on with them. So I love her lyrical writing. So I'm going to read a passage because it's so pretty. And this is when this is when Blue first meets the Raven Boys. Actually, it's when she first meets Gansey. She's at work at a place called Nino's. That's a pizza place. Something touched her shoulder. Touching was strictly against Blue's policy. No one was to touch her person while she was at Nino's, and especially no one was to touch her now when she was having a crisis. She whirled. "Can I help you?" Before her stood the multitasking cell phone Aglenby boy, looking tidy and presidential. His watch looked as if it cost more than her mother's car, and every area of exposed skin was a flattering shade of tan. Blue had never figured out how Aglenby boys managed to tan earlier than locals. It probably had something to do with the things like spring break and places like Costa Rica and the Spanish coast. President's cell phone had probably been closer to a pygmy tyrant than she would ever be. "I certainly hope so," he said, in a way that indicated less hope and more certainty. He had to speak loudly to be heard, and he had to incline his head to meet her eyes. There was something annoyingly impressive about him. An impression that he was very tall, although he was no taller than most boys. My socially inhibited friend Adam thinks you're cute, but he's unwilling to make a move. Over there. Not the smudgy one, not the sulky one. Blue, largely against her will, glanced to the booth he pointed to. The three boys sat at it. One was smudgy, just as he had said, with a rumpled, faded look about his person, like his body had been laundered too many times. The one who'd hit the light was handsome, and his head was shaved, a soldier, in a war where the enemy was everyone else. And the third was elegant. It was not the right word for him, but it was close. He was fine-boned and a little fragile-looking, with blue eyes pretty enough for a girl. Despite her better instincts, Blue felt a flutter of interest.
I love that book so much.
I know, I love it.
I know, I love it.
I was gonna be like, and hint, that's not the forbidden one. I love her writing too. I sometimes get very annoyed with lyrical writing. I'm like, yes, it's pretty. Like, it's why I don't read literary fiction very much. I'm like, just tell me the fun stuff. But hers is gorgeous, and her stories are so intriguing. So it's very dreamy.
It's fun and pretty.
Yeah. I think a big thing with lyrical writing, sometimes it's exhausting to read it because you really just have to like make your brain work. But with Maggie's books, I've never had that problem. And for somebody who's, English is not my first language, sometimes those like really like bogged down lyrical writing it's just so much work for me to just kind of sit there and try to like figure out like, okay, I know what you're trying to say, but now I have to like work at picturing it because it doesn't connect as easily, But with Maggie's, like, I've never had that problem. I can just read it and just really see it in my in my head without like struggling to try to like put a picture to it.
She just has a unique way of phrasing things.
I find sometimes I also can get a bit annoyed with it, particularly if it slows the pace of things down. But I didn't find that at all with this book. Like, it really, it kind of grabbed my interest from the beginning, and it wasn't like it was a little bit maybe slow in terms of the action, but the interest in the characters kind of really drew me in, and then the action kind of picked up as you went through the book. Yeah.
Maybe she
Definitely.
manages to keep tension even with lyrical writing. Maybe some people lose the tension by you being like, what was that? Like, what happened at the beginning of the paragraph? I already forgot.
Right.
But hers, like, the stakes are so high, and the characters are so interesting, because the whole time you're just wondering, like, is Gansey gonna die? Because she saw him on the thing, and you're like, I don't know, but we love Gansey.
And also, is she gonna fall in love with him? Because it's kind of a slow burn
is.
there too.
Yeah, it is.
Because she didn't like him at all that first time.
I know,
meets
and
him.
then she realizes she likes him. She's like, oh crap, the guy, true love I kiss, I'll kill them. So yeah, it's a great way to set up a forbidden romance because it's very different from most people's.
And yeah, it's not the enemies. It's not the enemies at first. It's forbidden from the beginning. They're friends. Well, they become friends pretty quickly.
Yeah, I also really like the fact that it's that big, like, all four of the boys and her, like, they've really just become like a tight-knit little community. Like, that whole, like, they just really connect, and then
They're like best friends.
yeah, and I love that because I mean, I love me my like one girl and boys relationships when it's just like pure like friendship on like everywhere. And I mean, yeah, there's other like things that come into play, but at the end of the day, like, they're friends first, and like the way they take care of each other, and just like, I don't know, I just really love that relationship between like the boys and her, and just like everything that happens. It was like really fun to watch it.
Like, it felt like it had kind of Stranger Things vibes, but with like older, obviously not kids, but with older, but that kind of same kind of group dynamic, I guess. And also they're kind of going after slightly supernatural things and things that aren't quite right.
Yeah, I love that. I love friendships and like that cast of characters that you just like, you want to know everything about each of them, not just like one or like the main
and you
one.
get it.
Yeah.
You get it.
Yeah. I think she does a really good job
And
at that.
all their
for
relationships,
sure.
like each character's relationship with each other character in it has depth. It's not just like the main character or whatever, like there's like all the directions are interesting.
Right.
Yeah, like Blue's friends with each of them.
Right.
And they're all friends each with each other in different ways. Yeah.
And they're all friends with each other. Sometimes you think that Ronan and Noah wouldn't be good friends because Noah's the kind of like the shy, timid one, and Ronan's like the bad boy, but they hang out and are friends,
Mm-hmm.
just the two of them.
Right.
So
Yeah, she does a really good job at like relationships for sure, across board, not just like romantic or whatever.
mhm.
And she's such a fun person. I went to a event for her, the Raven King. Is that the last book?
That's the last one. Yeah.
But I went to an event for the Raven King, the last book, and she was just like the most fun ever. Like she was talking about, she like got on top of a table so that she can see like the crowd in the bookstore, and she was like talking about because she loves cars and stuff, and so she was like talking about like racing cars and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I want to be your friend, like you're so cool. But yeah, I love like,
And she's an
I don't know, it
artist
was
too,
just
isn't she?
it was just so different because like you read this book and then you have a picture of an author in your head, and it's like this leather wearing like super cool chick that's like hilarious, and then like you read her books and you're like, this is like complete opposite, like what? I don't know, I just thought it was really cool.
So I read This Savage Song and also Our Dark Duet because it's a duology, so I kind of felt like I wanted to complete the series, which is, so it's a dystopian fantasy, which is one of my favourite genres, if not my favourite genre. And in the city the books are set in, you have monsters which are created from violent acts. So if a human commits a murder, then their soul is stained, and this monster kind of emerges from the sort of the act of violence. And different acts of violence create different types of monsters. And the city is split into two. So the north part of it is controlled by a man called Callum Harker, and he's like this big mob kind of leader, and he basically rules by fear, and everyone has to pay him in order to ensure their safety from these monsters because he can control them. And the south side of the city is completely different. So that's led by the Flynn family. And they lead a kind of task force who jointly try to eradicate these monsters and kind of keep the community safe. So the story is a dual point of view. So it's got August and Kate. So those are the 2 point of view characters. And as you probably can guess, August is the adopted son of Henry Flynn, and Kate is the daughter of Callum Harker. So you immediately have this kind of Romeo and Juliet style forbidden, sort of barrier between them. But it kind of goes a couple of steps further. So August is a monster he's one of these monsters who's been created from violent acts, but he wants to be human. He steals people's souls by playing the violin, which I just think is the coolest thing ever.
Creepy too.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and I love how like music kind of comes into this story and this interplayed. And he's a really nice guy. So he's like a monster, but he's a really nice guy. And Kate is human, but she kind of wants to become a figurative monster. She wants to earn her father's respect and love by proving to him that she is as ruthless as him. So the story really kind of plays on this theme of how you define a monster, and whether it's who you are or the acts you do, which is brilliant. So I have to say that in terms of, I guess, a romance, it's not really a romance story. So we're talking about forbidden love, but I feel like it's quite a kind of platonic love. There is a bit of a hint of romance in there, but it's definitely, if you're the type of person who wants these kind of steamy rolling around on the floor, kind of love scenes, then you're not going to get that from this book. But I think it's really...
But is there kissing?
I was gonna say our bar is low. Is there kissing?
I don't need rolling around, but kissing.
There is a kiss in the second book, so you have to wait to the second book, and that is. Oh, I don't want to give away. I can't give too much about spoilers, but the physical aspect of that relationship, there is also a forbidden element there, which is it's a really, really neat twist, but I'm not going to say any more because spoilers. And also, of course, he is a monster and she's a human. So there's like that whole kind of forbidden forbidden aspect to there. So I feel like it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but without the strong romance. But at the same time, you definitely get the sense that they're kind of soulmates, not in that kind of instant love sense that, you know, you see each other and you instantly know you've got this bond, but in terms of how their relationship develops. And they're like two sides of the same coin, you know, and how they each influence each other and how their relationship grows and develops. And they have fantastic character arcs in the book. So I think the first book is a bit more about Kate's character arc, and the second book is a bit more about August's character arc. But yeah, I really love these books. I would say that it is definitely like a lower romance threshold, but I quite like that. I don't always need to have romance in my books for me to enjoy them. So if you enjoy kind of young adult books which have this kind of really kind of slow development of friendship and then perhaps something a bit more, then you might like it.
Did you like A Darker Shade of Magic?
I haven't read it.
Okay, because
I need to, though. I need to read more books by her. She's been on my list lately.
I was like, kind of liked book 1 and I DNF'd book 2. So I always want to hear from people like, should I keep going with this author? Like, how did you feel about the next book? Or is it just like not my style? Like, I can understand her appeal, but
I don't want to give any spoilers, but I would be quite hesitant about recommending this duology to you based on your preferences. Am I being vague enough?
Is it too gory and stabby?
Oh, wait till I tell you what I'm reading right now.
There are a few reasons why. Like, it is quite stabby, but that is not the only reason why I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for you.
Yeah, I don't really see you reading it. I don't really see you reading her books at all. Maybe like her debut, which is The Near Witch, which was like this complete different type of a story than anything she writes now. That one I think you would like, because it has like those like, I don't know, like whimsical fairy tale-ish feels.
Right, because it was like a folktale-y kind of thing, right?
Yeah, so that one I'm like, I can see you actually like liking, but everything else I can't see you
maybe
reading
I don't
at
feel
all.
bad for not really loving it then. I really wanted to, because everyone loves it so much, and I read A Darker Shade of Magic and I was like, well, like, she's clearly talented. I can see why, but too morally gray, and then White London just scared the crap out of me. White London was so scary.
But that's fine, because it's different, you know, different people like different books.
Exactly.
Like, I love morally grey.
Yes, and sometimes, but anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, well, I guess we can talk about my book now, which is kind of funny. You mentioned the whole like love at first sight situation, which I didn't really remember, but apparently it kind of happens in my book, because I reread it and I was like, I don't remember this as much as like love at first sight, but it makes sense. Like, that's the thing, it made sense. But anyway, I read Firelight by Sophie Jordan, and if you guys know, I may be mentioned on here or not, but I love Sophie Jordan. I think she's an amazing writer, and she writes across like young adult and adults, so like just wide variety of books from her, which I love. But anyway, I read Firelight, which is a young adult trilogy, and it came out about, I think the first book came out like 10 years ago, so it's been around for a while, and I don't feel like a lot of people read it, so hopefully now people will, because I love it. But it basically follows a girl named Jacinda, and she is a Draki, which is a descendant of dragons, and their most guarded secret is that they have a human form. So she's like just a regular girl, but she can turn into a dragon. And so she lives in this I know, right? But she lives in this like community, and they're hidden from the world and all this stuff. But in the beginning of the book, she and her best friend decide to, well, mostly her, and she like drags her best friend to do this, but they go out and fly. They're not allowed to fly unless it's like night, and they have like very specific times where they go out and they, you know, turn into their dragons and let them basically exercise. But she wants to fly when it's like sunrise and beautiful and all this stuff over the water. And so she talks her best friend into this. And so they do their little flight, and each draki has an ability. And so like her best friend is a water draki, and so she can like actually go underwater and just stay there and for as long as she needs to, because she develops there's like gills like to stay underwater. And Jacinda is special because she is the first fire breather from like, I think it's been centuries since they've had one. So she's like wanted by her pride, and like there's like Alpha, the next Alpha, she's promised to like mate with him to make more fire breathers and stuff. So anyway, so they're flying over, and as they're flying over, the hunters come, because of course there are hunters who want to murder all the dragons. And so basically in the beginning of the book, she tells her, best friend to go underwater, and she's gonna, take them away from where she's at. And so she ends up in this cave, still in her dragon form, because when their like emotions are heightened, they can't turn back into human. And so, and also she's like afraid, because if suddenly there's two girls after there was just two dragons, she's afraid like people are like, the hunters are gonna know like they can turn into humans. And so while she's sitting in this cave, a hunter finds her, and he is just like this young boy. Well, not young boy, but he's like 18 and he's cute and all, but he doesn't give up her position. He basically just mumbles that she's beautiful and leaves. so yeah, so that's like the very beginning of the book, like the first chapter. And so basically what happens is that they decide they're gonna punish Jacinda for what she did, and her mom and her twin sister and her leave the pride. So they basically just run away. And the thing is that your draki can die. And so her mom let her inner dragon basically die off years ago. So she's like a regular human now. And then her twin sister never manifested. So she's like a regular human. So now they're living in this like regular human world, and Jacinda has to protect her secret and not like manifest her dragon in school, while her sister's having like the time of her life because she's always been human. So it's been weird for her to be in the pride with full of dragons. And lo and behold, the little boy that called her beautiful, Will, is in the school.
Of course he
with
is.
his cousins, of course, right? And so yeah, so the hunter guy is in the school, and Jacinda has like a very specific response to him, and she like has to really kind of try not to manifest around him, and he has a pull to her, and there's certain reasons for that, and they basically completely forbidden love on that one. A human and a dragon, plus he's a hunter and she is the prey. And so yeah, there's a lot of drama that happens, and she really has to. One of the things that I really loved about Jacinda as a character is that she constantly has to really like control herself not to go full dragon on these people. And I just thought that was really fun to watch, because it's kind of like a manifestation of, how like you go through puberty or whatever, and you have like your emotions are all over the place, and you have all that teenage angst and whatever. But now like it's a physical manifestation of these things. So it's like if she gets like too angry, then like her dragon can come out and she can burn people and all this stuff. So it was really fun to like watch her try to control herself, but also like she did not want to get her draki, like she did not want it to let it die, and her mom was constantly like, it's gonna be easier as soon as he's dead, and she's like, I don't want it dead. So I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked Will and her relationship. I thought it was just enough of like sweet and like romantic that it was just really fun to watch. And there is a love triangle, kind of, not really like a love triangle.
Don't you hate those?
I'm not a fan of those, but in this case I understood why there was one. Because she was promised to the alpha, right? And he's actually like really cares about her, and he is like, I will protect you, I will be there for you if you come back to the pride with me, which she obviously wants to, but there's reasons why she can't. And in the second book, you really get to know him as a character. And I thought it was done really well, where I'm like, girl, like, you can pick this one. It's okay. Like, if you need to, you can. Which doesn't happen very often with love triangles. Like, you know from the very beginning who it's gonna be, and the other person is just there for drama, you know? But in this case, it wasn't like that, and I really liked it. And I didn't really like the way it ended for him, but I really like the way, like, the whole trilogy played out for all the other characters. So it was a satisfying book, and you know, me and dragons, I love them. So it was really fun to like see this lore, and yeah. Yeah, that's my book. I love it.
I feel like I've never even heard of this book before, and I don't.
I don't
It sounds really good. It sounds
Yeah.
like
It does.
It is. It's definitely like peak young adult, like like during Twilight and during like the Hunger Games, like during that time, like it's like peak young adult, where it's just like romance centered, but you still have this like magical world, or whatever. And I don't know, her writing is really, really good. It's just she's a very good storyteller, which, you know, sometimes like people, I don't know, people sometimes kind of talk down on the way certain books are written, because they're like, oh, it's so simplistic. Yeah, sure, but the story is amazing and the way it's told is great. Like, it doesn't have to be a lyrical masterpiece every single time. It just has to be told well. And I think she's an amazing storyteller, and that's why I like really love her books. So I recommend this one for sure.
I'm gonna look it up after.
Adding that to my to be read.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will add
Which
it to
makes
my
me so
list.
happy. More people need to read these books.
Yeah.
I feel like I just want to pick all the old books. Like, I'll let you guys pick the modern ones, and I'll pick all the old young adult books that I want people to
The
read.
classic young adult.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But-
you sold me when you said dragons, so I'm a sucker for a dragon
It's
book.
such a fun lore, and the way she takes it, like with the shifting and stuff, and the fact that you can like, it can die if you don't like exercise it. Like, you can just, I don't know, I just love that so much. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
I can just keep going.
But I think Forbidden Love is actually a really hard one to find lots of books for, as I think we mentioned. But if you're listening and if you've loved any of these books, or you want some more Forbidden Love books, then we do have a few more recommendations for you. So my recommendation, which is again is a little bit of a different twist on the Forbidden Love trope, because I have to be different, is Fantasy of Frost by Kelly Sinclair. And like, it's not really a spoiler. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but it happens right at the beginning. So the interesting take is that, so the initial love interest actually dies right at the beginning of the book. So the main character, she falls in love with this prince who is a member of a foreign delegation, and they're kind of enemies, or it's definitely forbidden. They cannot possibly be together. So they're like meeting in secret, and they're trying to come up with this plan for how they can be together. And then he is murdered, and it's not clear whether he was the one who was the target, or whether she was the target and he got murdered as a kind of, you know, side effect instead of her. And that's really the catalyst for like everything that then happens in the story. And obviously there is another love interest for the series, which is kind of hinted at a little bit in book one, but she's still like grieving her lost love and everything, and trying to find out. So the whole story really is her trying to find out who killed him. But it's a really great book. I really enjoyed reading it, so I would recommend that. How about you, Hannah?
I'm not going to recommend a book where love interest gets killed in chapter 2. I'm going to recommend The Raven and the Dove by Caitlin Davis. It is this really interesting world building where these people live on floating islands above the world, and they don't know what the world is like down there because they don't go there. And there's like a sea of clouds below them. And each different floating island, the people have different like affinities kind of thing, and then they have wings of a specific bird. So the raven is from the island where they have the raven wings, and she's from the island where they have the dove wings, and there's owls, and I can't remember them all. But they each have their own distinct cultures within it, and I believe they're born as like human babies, and then they take them into their sacred space, and they get these like magical wings, and everybody has these wings. So it's, and then they can all fly, and they have like, well, they're not quite human because they have like the hollow bones, so they can fly, and there's this whole thing. And at the beginning of the first book, they're getting ready. There's like a matching kind of thing where the heirs of the different, like they all have like their own little kingdoms, all come together and they compete, and so they can get to know each other, and then they pick their mates, and they get like the most high ranking person gets to pick first who they want, and then they kind of like match so that they all, I don't know, get good.
It's like picking
Yes,
teams.
for life. So they have to like show off how awesome they are. So the girl who's one of the doves, she's gonna get to, I think she's the highest ranking one, so she knows she's gonna get to pick a husband. I can't quite remember the exact details. And then but the guys, there are two brothers, and one is the heir and one is the bastard, and the heir has no hand, and he can't do some of the like combat trials and things like that, and they look very similar, but I think they have different eye color or something. So, and they all have to wear masks for reasons. So
For
for reasons, and they've never met each other. So he's like sends his brother to compete in the trials, and him and the girl meet a little bit ahead of time, and then she sees him in the trials, and because she saves his life ahead of time, sees him in the trials, and she's like, that's the guy, and they like have all these moments, and she's like, I'm gonna pick you, and he's like, don't pick me, don't do it. And she's like, I'm picking you, and we're gonna be happy because I can't believe it, I actually like somebody, and she's so excited. So then she picks him, and him and his brother have to swap back, and she finds out that the guy she chose, that she saw in the trials and fell in love with, is not the guy she's marrying, it's his brother. And it's political, so good luck, this is your life now, you get to hang out around the guy you love who you're not supposed to be with. So it's an interesting setup, and that's only the first little bit, so I don't think it was too spoilery. You know at the beginning, because it's dual point of view, that the guys switch places and all of that, but it's a good like, how on earth will they get around this messily, is the answer to that question.
Sounds good.
Give
That
it a try.
sounds fun.
Well, I want to recommend Fay Away by Rose Garcia. I got the opportunity to read this early, but at the time of this recording, it will be in the Midnight Whispers anthology. And then in April of 2021, Rose is going to re-release it with like extended scenes. So in Fay Away,
We love Faye.
we love Faye. Celise is a Fae princess who has been watching a human boy named Julio through what is called a shimmer for about a year, and a shimmer is kind of like a portal. She's just been kind of like spying on this boy.
As one does.
It's
Not
okay when you're the
supposed to,
girl.
Yes.
It's not stalkerish at all.
Not as creepy as the girl. She's not supposed to, but she can't help herself and finds herself falling in love with Julio, to this boy who she's never talked to, or she's never like actually met. But she can't be with him because he's human and she's Fae, and if a Fae kisses a human, the human dies. So another one of those, a kiss will kill, forbidden
So
love.
you've basically had like two books which are the same kind of forbidden love.
Yeah. So things happen. She is sent to the human world to seek Julio's help with something, and things happen, and she can't kiss him, and I recommend it.
That sounds fun. I like the, I think we talked about like the no touching and stuff. So it's like the same things, like no kissing. Like that's a big one in romance. We all want the kissing. That's funny. Well, my recommendation is Angel Fall by Susan E. And I remember reading like the trilogy and just being like, I don't know, so amazed by it. It's such a fun thing, but I say that as I talk about the apocalypse.
Is it Fun apocalypse.
It's such a fun thing. But basically the first book is 6 weeks since like the angels of the apocalypse descended on Earth and just like destroyed a bunch of stuff. And so the book is about Penryn, that's how you say it, I guess, her name, and her sister gets taken. And so she goes on this adventure basically to try to get her sister back. And one of the, I was going to say people, but one of the individuals that she comes across and kind of like works together with is a enemy angel. And so I feel like they have a very strong hate to love relationship, but also the forbidden romance, considering that he's an angel and she's not. And so
yeah, and he's not just
that's the
any
first book.
angel. He's an archangel, so he's like he's like the most important of all the angels. And he's definitely not allowed to fall in love with a human girl.
Yes. But I really, really liked the whole trilogy. And I don't know, I just liked like I don't know what it is with angels when it's post-apocalyptic. It's so much better.
It's a real genre mashup, isn't it? I loved it. I love this series.
Yeah.
It gets really dark in the middle. Like book 2 gets really dark. Like even for
not
me,
a Hanna book.
Even for me,
I'll just read books 1 and 3.
Yeah, but I particularly loved book 3 and like the kind of climax up to the end. Oh, it had just like all the emotions.
Yeah, it's really good. I remember feeling a lot of emotions reading it. So it's a good one, and it's a complete trilogy. So binge readers can definitely check it out. But yeah, that was really fun. I love talking tropes. These are my favorite episodes. I mean, like, I like the other episodes too, but the tropes episodes, like, where we can really get into it. So it's really fun. But if you ever want to pick up any of the books we're discussing, we do have a link to a bookshop page for your convenience. And it's basically, if you buy a book through them, you're supporting an indie bookstore. So it's a great cause. And also, buy some books because you need some books always. But in the next episode, we are going to have some familiar voices coming back. But for now, I want to see what everybody's reading this week. So Hanna.
Well, see, everyone's like teasing me about how I don't read dark things. So I tell you about the book I'm reading right now. I'm like, see?
Yes.
See? Okay, so I love Audrey Gray. She's like one of my favorite authors right now. And she's also a very nice person, by the way. Audrey, if you're listening. So she's got like one series that's like a really fun fae series, and then one series that's kind of epic fantasy romance. And then this is her first series, which is dystopian. And I keep looking at it and I'm like, dystopian. Like, I can sometimes do it, but sometimes I get, anxiety attacks and stop sleeping. So I'm like, which will it be? But I was in between books and I just wanted to read something. And I'm like, I know I'll enjoy, like, I love her writing and I love the romance. And even the blurb is like, this is not the same as my other books. And I'm like, I'm going to read it anyway because it's in Kindle Unlimited. So I'm at about like 80% through. So it's dystopian. And have either of you guys read this?
I haven't read it, but it's on my Kindle.
Okay,
I want to read it.
It's good. So it's like, I would call it Hunger Games meets Red Rising.
Oh my goodness, you sold it to me.
Yeah.
Alison's like, that's my next read
like,
now.
I'm getting it now. So there's the whole like class system similar to Red Rising. It's all on Earth though. There's like an emperor and it's kind of like a whole thing because for reasons there's an uprising and blah blah blah. It's not important. So there's like that. So there's this dystopian government with an evil emperor and like really snotty royals, and then there's also a meteor that's going to hit the Earth in 2.5 weeks. So, or like hit near it. It's going to hit near it and like devastate things, but only for maybe a decade. So trying to convince everyone to go to cryo sleep, but the like rich people get to go up onto a space station. So there's that. And then also she's been spending the last 7 years of her life living not in a prison, but like in tunnels underneath a prison, eating scraps where people kill each other and gouge each other's eyes out. So she's like super traumatized. So I was like, it's like 3 layers of like really
This is not a Hanna book.
I know. And it's so stabby. So I started reading it one evening and I read like 5 chapters. And then I was like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. So then I'm also reading Sleeping Beauty by K.M. Shea, which is like the sweetest thing you can possibly read. So I can read like a couple
You gotta balance
chapters
it out.
of Shadowfall, where everyone's like killing people in cryosleep because they hate them, over to reading cute little banter and will she or won't she fall in love with her childhood friend who's a magic knight. I think she will, by the way.
That's good. She just did the recover for that last year, I think. I
The
really
K.M.
like her
Shea
new covers.
or Audrey Gray?
No,
Both of them did.
Audrey Gray for that series.
I saw her previous covers. And they're
I
really
would not have picked those
I
up.
wouldn't have either. I think she got the same cover designer who's been doing her other ones. All her covers are gorgeous. And the covers do look a little bit more like fantasy than they are. But it does kind of go with like there's a lot of like nobility and I don't know, emperors and things like that. So it makes sense.
Good.
I think you guys would like it. It's like I said, near the upper edge for me, but I do read this stuff occasionally, and currently my mental health is quite stable.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see how the rest of the series goes.
Yeah. All right, Joanna, what are you reading?
I'm such a mood reader, and I'm only halfway through the Raven cycle, so
there you go.
I'm gonna be reading book 3 next.
Oh, that's a good one. I think book 3 is my favorite out of the.
I think it's mine too. I just finished book 2 last night. I read book 2 all day yesterday.
Yeah. Allison, what about you?
So I have 3 books on the go. So because I have an ebook, a paperback, and an audiobook.
I'm reading 2 other books as well. I just cut mine short.
You talked about your books. I'm just going to mention them. So the ebook I'm reading is Of Water and Moonlight by Volia.
I love it.
Which I'm really enjoying. And paperback, I am reading Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I don't really get any time to read paperbacks at the moment, so it's really, really I'm really enjoying it, but it's going really slowly because I just literally don't have time to read it. And the audiobook I'm listening to is Chasing the Stars by Mallory Blackman, which is also great.
Nice.
I'm too scared to read Nevernight.
It's very stabby.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Not a Hanna book. No. I've been really bad about reading recently. So I actually picked up The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins yesterday, and I love her books. I talked about her other series, like her young adult series on here before. But this is her first adult, and it's like a loose Jane Eyre retelling. And I'm like 20 pages from being done with it. So I'm going to finish that today and then pick up maybe actually Audrey Gray's, because that just sounded really good.
It's really well done. It's very breakneck pacing.
Yeah, which maybe that's what I'll need, but I'm hoping I'm finally out of my little reading slump and I'll work through my 21 books that I want to read in 2021. Possibly go back to Clockwork Princess.
Gotta read it.
I know. I'm working on it, guys. Okay, I picked it up and opened it. Okay, and read the first 2 pages.
Read the introduction. Looked at the map.
I keep thinking if I should reread the first 2 because it's been such a long time since I read it. But I'm I feel like I remember it well enough that I can still enjoy third book without rereading the first 2. So I might just message you, Joanna, and be can you give me a summary for these questions that I have?
I just reread that series a month ago.
Perfect. So. Okay, so I know who to come to if I have questions. But yeah, so thank you for listening to the Reading Queens. Before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and make sure to follow us on Instagram at Reading Queens Pod, and then stay tuned for next week. Happy reading.
Bye.